Hey guys, welcome back. I am Nat from Nat's Numbers, also known as the Numerology Chick over on Instagram. I am so excited because we're starting a new series here on the Nat's Numbers YouTube channel where we're going to go into the dark side or the shadow aspects of each number in numerology. So I got a lot of positive responses on my last video saying, yes, let's do this. So obviously from the title, you know that we're going to be diving into the shadow aspects or the darker aspects of the number 1. So if you have a 1 anywhere in your chart, okay, in the form of a 1 or an 11, in your life path position, expression number, heart's desire, personality, or the day that you were born, the content in this video is going to be really, really powerful for you, okay? This is also really great if you are in relationship with somebody that has a 1 in their chart. It can really help you. It can help you understand what are some of the things that might show up and why when this individual that you love kind of drops into some negative experiences. So let's dive in. As always, thank you so much to you guys who like, comment, and subscribe. It makes a big difference. Please hit that notification bell, share the love. I appreciate you being here with me so much. So really quick, before we dive into the shadow aspect of each number, I want to kind of define what I mean by the shadow aspect or the darker aspect. Every number in numerology is a fundamental force or instinct in the universe, meaning that every single number wants to get a job done. It wants to produce some kind of result. That's why it's here. It's a puzzle piece within the universe, okay? So the shadow side of a number is when we are not actively engaging in producing the result that that number wants to produce in an effective way. All right? The shadow side of your number 1 is when you are not actively engaging in an effective way to produce the result of the number 1. So what the number 1 wants to do in the universe is it wants to produce this result of individuality, honoring the sanctity of individuality, and as such, to then create new beginnings, new experiences, and new realities. The way that these results emerge, right? The way that we access new experiences, new realities, new beginnings, the way that we honor the beauty of the individual is via uniqueness, okay? So what happens is that if you have a 1 in your chart, you have an overwhelming sense of standing out and being unique. But then what you do is you try to sweep it off and stuff it into the shadows. You repress it. You repress it out of fear, right? That you don't want to stand out. You don't want to be different. It feels dangerous. So then what happens when you feel this inherent oddness and you stuff it away, you feel like you have a couple of choices to survive. One of those choices and one of the aspects, the darker aspects of the number 1 is conformity, right? But it gets even worse than that. It's not just conformity. It's where you hide your true self. You hide your authentic self by relinquishing your very identity. And instead, you become meek, passive, and yielding to others, to what others want for you, to what others think that you should be doing, saying, thinking, okay? And then through this conformity, you never develop a sense of self. You never develop or grow your own skin. You never actually come to terms with the fact that you are an alive individual who has been designed to walk your own walk, pave your own way. So conformity is one of the first sort of darker sides of the 1, the first symptoms that we might see showing up. And the reason why I call this the lower function of the number 1 is because it doesn't produce the result that the number 1 wants to produce, obviously. It doesn't produce the results of individuality, of honoring the unique desires and preferences and ideas and innovations that you have as the pioneer that you are. You never truly step into your power if you continue to suppress your uniqueness and conform, okay? But then what happens actually is there's a byproduct of conformity over time. And this is where we get into the deeper, darker aspects of the number one in numerology. It's where you become incredibly reactive, okay? And this is where people think of sensitivity as being a negative versus a superpower, okay? Sensitivity can be a superpower when you're not conforming and when you are honoring the messages that your sensitivity is bringing, okay? But when you aren't doing that, you become reactive. It's kind of like having a medical condition where imagine you literally have no skin. You know, you have no barrier to prevent the outside world from coming in. You wouldn't be able to go outside. You wouldn't be able to leave the confines of your, medical room, right? It's like anything that comes by would threaten your very survival. And this is what happens to ones when they conform for too long, when they never have developed a sense of self or a sense of identity or distinguished the difference between what it feels like to be me and what it feels like to be them, right? I remember I knew the most amazing woman. I mean, she was a genius, as ones oftentimes are, this incredible innovator, this idea person. Oh my gosh, she was fabulous. But it was hard to be around her. And this is the case for ones that fall into this darker side of the one. She was so incredibly sensitive because she hadn't developed that strong sense of self that if we were at a restaurant and the chair was too cold, right, we would have to move to another table. If we were in a room and the music was a rhythm that she didn't like, she would ask someone to turn it off, right? Her coffee needed to be a certain degree at the coffee shop, or she would take it back 3 to 4 times, okay? This is what happens when a one hasn't developed that skill of growing their own skin, developing their own sense of self and learning how to honor that sense of self. It is like they're a ticking time bomb. And other people, when they're around somebody that's in this lower function, find it very, very difficult to be around them. You feel like you might have to walk on eggshells around them because of this. And this is granted an extreme example, right? Usually when I work with the ones, this reactivity just looks like, ooh, I'm really more sensitive than other people. But sometimes it can even segue into massive isolation, where a one finds that they can't even be around other people, interact with other people, again, because they haven't learned how to negotiate their own presence, okay? So this is a lower function. This is the shadow aspect of the one, because it doesn't produce the result of honoring new experiences and new realities. Ones who are in this reactivity get stuck in reacting to their environment versus creating the environment that they want. You become so undeveloped, right? And stuck in this perpetual nature of sensitive weakness that you can't get very far on your journey. Okay, so the last sort of element, and this is not as common, it's definitely more rare, but I have seen it, is if you conform for too long, you're meek, passive, and yielding for too long, you don't develop that beautiful, strong sense of self and honoring your uniqueness, you become reactive, maybe even isolated. It can then segue into being overly aggressive, okay? Trying to convince others of something that you have yet to accept about yourself. Usually you're trying to convince others to be more like you. Because then if everybody else could be like you, if everybody else could honor this uniqueness, could honor this, incredible new perspective you have or new idea that you have, then maybe you could finally get on board with it, right? This aggressiveness can also come out as striving. It can come out as sort of no holds barred, pushing people out of the way and trying to get to your goals. But it's all based on this concept of trying to stuff down your uniqueness, right? Stuff down the things that set you apart and that make you different, and instead of honoring them. Instead of doing the inner work that you need to do to grow your own skin, to grow into yourself, to be confident and proud in the way that the universe designed you to be different, okay? So the reason why this aggressiveness and this striving and this like everyone out of my way thing doesn't work is because you actually end up damaging the sanctity of the individual in others. And even if you get other people to change, even if you get other people to say, okay, like, I see it from your perspective, or, okay, I'll be more like you. If you don't ever do that for yourself, you'll never feel that sense of calm, of solitude, and of true confidence, right? Okay. So what is the solution to these darker shadow aspects of the number one? What is the solution to this propensity to conform, to be meek, to be passive, to be yielding? What is the solution even to this, overzealous reactivity? What is the solution even to this aggressiveness of getting everyone else to be on board with your perspective? Ayn Rand was an amazing, Russian-American writer, and she was a one life path. And she has a beautiful quote that says, "I will not run anyone's life, nor let anyone run mine. I will not rule or be ruled. I will not be a master nor a slave. I will not sacrifice myself to anyone, nor sacrifice anyone to myself." End quote. Easier said than done, right? Okay, so here are some simple tips that I use in my private practice that can start to help you rise into the higher function of the number one. The higher function of the number one is being independent, self-sufficient, being proud of what makes you unique, being proud of what makes you an individual, honoring the beauty of how you were designed and who you are. One of my dear friends, he's a Jungian psychoanalyst, and he actually does this with clients where he'll have them sit on a chair in the middle of a room and he'll draw a circle around them with a rope. And he'll say, "This is your space. Accept it and honor it." Okay, the number one in sacred geometry for thousands of years has been the circle, right? Because one point on a paper that goes out in all directions is a circle, right? The only way that the gift of individuality can exist, the only way that life can exist, is via a circle, a boundary of self. It's fascinating, right? That's why cells are circles, that's why so many things in the universe, at their fundamental level, are circles. So presence your space. Presence your space. Draw that circle around you. Own it. And then start to visualize it when you go out. Start to feel what it feels like to be you, and then start to feel like what it feels like to be out there. Start to make that distinction within yourself. And with clients, what I really, really ask them to do, if you have a one in your chart, is spend more time alone. And during that alone time, don't have it just be escapism. During that alone time, really get clear on some basics about who you are. Like, what are your desires? What are your preferences? What food do you like to eat? What shows do you like to watch? What books do you like to read? What conversations do you like to have? What kind of places do you like to go? And start to write these things down. Discover these things about yourself. Some ones that I've worked with, they're in their 60s. They don't know the answers to these questions. They don't know what dreams they have on their heart. Start to do that self-exploration, okay? And one of the other things that is so incredibly helpful, if you're willing, and usually you have to do it after the latter, okay? Ask yourself, what are the things that have always set me apart? What are the things that have made me different? What are the things that I've been maybe insecure about when I was younger, as a young girl or boy, as a young teenager, as a young adult? What were the things that I always felt, made me weird within my profession or my industry? Get clear on those things, because it's usually those things that you've been hiding, that you've been repressing, and it's actually those things that are the secret to you rising into the higher function of the one, to you honoring your uniqueness, to you being this pioneer of new experiences, new realities, okay, and new beginnings. So I want to hear from you guys. So if you have a one in your chart, which one of these darker shadow aspects have you experienced? I have. I've experienced definitely all of them. I have an 11 hearts desire, so I've got double one in my chart. And do you have your own tips of the things that you do to rise back into that higher function, to rise back into that feeling of being proud of your uniqueness, being confident in your individual self? Please brainstorm below, and let's just add fuel to the fire, Okay? I appreciate you guys so much. And please subscribe, because in next week's video, I'm going to be covering a shadow or darker aspect of another number in the number sequence. So stay tuned.